Welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne. And with me, as always, is my co-host, who I respect so much, Amanda Comey.
For now you respect me, right? We'll see how we feel in like an hour, right?
Alright, we are discussing Promethea. It is a book published by American-based Comic. It ran from 1999 to 2005, producing 32 issues. It's written by legendary writer and the Lord of Snakes himself, Alan Moore, with gorgeous art by J.H. Williams III. The story is about young college student Sophie Baines as she is thrust into extraordinary situations and adventures as she finds herself transformed into the mythical warrior Promethea, the living embodiment of imagination. So how was that?
That was great for a summary. I gotta throw out a few more notes on the creative team.
Go right ahead.
So this is also Mick Gray is doing the inks for J.H. Williams' art, and I believe at the time they were working together a lot. And then we also have on colors, it's mostly Jeremy Cox. And I just want to point that out because even now, when J.H. Williams is working with other artists, I think I really associate his work with a lot of like really bright, dynamic color. And he has nothing to do with that. I don't know how it is that he draws in such a way that we end up with like these really beautiful, really brightly, richly, vibrantly, super, super colorful images, because he's just drawing the lines. So I think we need to like give a super shout out for the colorist. And then we also, I think we need to talk about, this is Todd Klein's lettering. He's the guy who did pretty much like all of the greatest books of the 90s and the 2000s, including Sandman. And I feel like he's kind of the guy who said different characters should sometimes have different lettering. So anyways, it's like a killer creative team. Like, this is slam dunk visuals. Yeah, so I was very excited when I picked up this book and I looked at it.
Okay, so listeners, I just want to make this clear. I love Amanda to death. I respect her. I'm so happy that she like accepted my request to do this show, and this show would be nothing without her. Now, Amanda, with that being said, why are you wrong for hating this book?
Why am I wrong for hating this book? Well, I mean, you know, maybe it's a little bit like a child where I'm disappointed because I see all of the potential and the talent, and yet it fails to live up to my expectations. I think the first issue I've got is that you had difficulty summarizing what this story was about, because this isn't a story. This is an old man rambling about how he thinks the pretend world works. Right? Like there isn't a plot per se. It's the protagonist character walks around and characters talk at her in a way where the background illustrations don't even help you understand the words better.
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, you say you didn't get that at all, and yet, what is the plot?
What is the plot? Well, shit, she. Okay, hold up. Well, I just gave a good summary. No.
Okay, so there's a character, and weird shit happens to her.
Yeah, that's fine. Like,
that's the plot?
Well, no. The plot is that she is the living embodiment of imagination. She's basically a legacy hero in the long line of like heroes, and she's just now the most recent incarnation of that hero.
And what is she? Does she have a clear villain? Does she have a clear goal? Does she have a character arc?
Well,
Is
she well she has plenty of villains, but again, we just read the first 12 issues,
which is a third of the series.
which is a third of the series. But
so we should at least have an idea of like where it goes overall.
Well, I think what it says is that basically she has a lot of enemies over all these like thousands of years that's trying to stop her from breaking down society, to stop humanity from reaching like the next level. And I know that's like some hippy dippy shit bullshit, cause it is, but it's hippy dippy bullshit that I enjoy.
Mm.
Like here's the thing, right? I don't know, cause I read a lot of criticism about this book. A lot of people seem to love it, but there are some strong criticisms about it. And I don't know if people would be so critical of it if they didn't know that Ellen Moore was a snake worshiping weirdo. I think a lot of that plays into how people see this book. But if you just take it on its own and take it for what it is, I think it's super imaginative. I
See, go, keep going.
I read superhero comics more than I read anything else, right? And some of the best shit you can ever read, and some of the bad, and some of the worst. But for the most part, I read like some of the best superhero comics you can ever read. Martin, Past, there's a lot of stuff that we did for here, right? And I appreciate that this is a little bit outside the box. You know what I'm saying?
Is it though?
Yeah, I think it is. Now, with all that being said, issue 12, the last issue that we read for this show, completely goes off the rails. But we'll get to that in a minute. That shit right there was nuts.
But that last issue is not really different than stuff that happened in the first book, because there were multiple points in this series where Sophie literally, as Promethea or as Sophie, is literally just walking through a landscape and people are talking at her about what this area of imagination land signifies in terms of the collective unconscious.
But you see,
there isn't like a plot. It's just someone is explaining to her. And then she gets to the next person and they're explaining to her. And then she talks to the magician and he's explaining to her while in the background they're having sex. And then she talks to the snakes and they're explaining to her while in the background there's tarot cards. It's just a lot of explaining.
But you see, and I don't mind that because I like all the characters and I enjoy the art.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't mind that. It didn't even occur to me that well, it occurred to me some that was happening, but I was enjoying that journey. That they basically prepping her for something big. At least I think
they're prepping her for a philosophy 101 exam.
And I think that's
she should have index cards out, taking notes so that she can recite this stuff again later. Except I don't really see that there's going to be a later where she has to, recite Alan Moore's interpretation of what the 4 suits of the tarot deck signify.
I still don't know because I skipped past a lot of that shit. Like that last issue, because those snakes have absolutely no personality to me. At least with the other Prometheus, you get stories with all the explaining. With the other Prometheus, you get stories about them. Even one of the Prometheus who is essentially a trans person. That was real.
He didn't have the courage for that. He just made him a gay man.
Well, look, he made him get no, Amanda. That you see, I think that's kind of reductive. I don't think that's true at all. I think he was gay, and Promethea is the living embodiment of a woman. So he turns into a woman, which apparently is what he wanted to be on the inside. Don't forget now, it is
But that's different than being gay, right?
Sometimes, but I live in a land with a lot of gay people. That's a lot closer. I know some people get upset with that, but honestly, you know what I'm saying? Being trans and being gay, there's not. And again, I think he does it right because he doesn't call her trans. He doesn't say it's a man dressed up as a woman, because when you're trans, you're supposed to be considered a woman, right? Caitlyn Jenner is a woman. We can never refer to her
Right.
as Bruce, right?
Right.
So,
And they
so,
do that part fine.
and they do that part fine, right? But don't forget now, this is not. You see, this is where like modern day politics come into it. Now, don't forget now, he was a closeted he was a closeted gay man in 1950. Like that would seem odd now, and it's a tragic story about how a person couldn't be themselves because it's 1950s because it's 1950s America, and you see what happened to poor Bill because of that bigotry, because he couldn't live his true, authentic form and self.
Yeah, see, I just think it was completely unnecessary for him to make for him to have this character that is a gay man being a woman, and then to also have the story where his Promethea's lover finds out that she's in the body of a man and then kills them both, right? That's like not super necessary.
I know. I think that just is commentary on that time in America, or
But
just
then like where is the actual commentary? Because we aren't given anything explicit that says like this sucks or this is wrong, and it's not part of it's almost like a throwaway page in a list of like terrible things that have happened to Prometheus.
I mean, that was her terrible thing though, and like what exactly is he supposed to say? Like more than what he did, because like it does say that because it does say in the book, if I remember correctly, that because of the time this happens, because Sophie says that's messed up, that happened because of his bigotry. Like it says it, and like and like
yeah, but it says it like, okay, we get like one line of that, and then we move on to like 5 pages about how European civilization is the most important thing in the universe. Like, great. I'm not like particularly, excited there.
I am. I love I love all this explaining, as you say. I love all this, and it would be different if it was just a throwaway line for that one Promethea. But I think all the Prometheus, you only get a hint of their backstory, and it's only like a page for each one. So I'm perfectly fine.
So you're fine with having like you're fine with having the characters be completely secondary to Alan Moore essentially mansplaining at us.
If you want to call it that.
It totally is. This feels like this feels so much to me like I'm sitting at a party in undergrad and some guy who doesn't even realize we're in the same like philosophy class is coming up to me trying to explain to me like what we read that.
I have no reference for any of that shit. I have
but
no.
But you do. Okay, like there's some stuff. There's some stuff in the very last issue we read which actually like super super bothered me, because the last issue that we read, issue 12, is where there's actually just like they drop the pretense of the plot and they say we're just going to have like a digression where the caduceus snakes are going to explain to Promethea Alan Moore's history of the universe using a bastardized version of the tarot, vague Hebrew references, and a joke about a magician. And as he describes the history of the universe, one of the things that he describes as being critical is this sort of like growth and swelling and then like failure and then rising again of mankind through the super, super Eurocentric worldview of like the Dark Ages and the Plague and Christianity, and everything is so focused on how a British man views the world.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, the Dark Ages only happened in Europe. Africa was fine. China was fine. India was fine.
I mean,
we have science right now.
You see, again, we taking that as Americans, and we supposed to be woke. Like, but if you go to Africa, if you hear Africa stories, people written by Africa, or you hear stories with people written by Asia. Guess what? They don't take into account for the rest of the fucking world. So
Okay, but when you're trying to tell the history of the universe and you say that the course of all mankind is predicated on this cycling, and that cycling literally only happened to white people, and you're ignoring most of the culture of the world, especially you're ignoring the culture that birthed Promethea, which is Egypt. Like, she's a fucking Egyptian demigod, and we're going to ignore what happened to her culture after she was killed.
Well, no, Christians don't come out looking great in this story.
No, I'm not saying they do, but I'm saying that it seems really almost offensive for Alan Moore to be like, hey, I'm going to explain to you how I see the world, and I'm going to expect you to care, even though I haven't given you a plot or a context or anything to put this framework inside of. He's literally just explaining there is no greater world to put this in.
I'm okay with that. That's how he sees the world. Like, I'm absolutely okay that he's an English man who sees the world from an English point of view. Just as I'm an American, and I see. But
he's pretending to be a woman who fetishizes an Egyptian demigoddess. Like,
again, I'm okay with that. Like none of that. I don't.
Like, so I guess the problem is when I take away all of the elements in this story that I didn't like, I'm left with so little. Like, if there were a plot, then I could say, oh, well, I thought the digressions where he explained shit were stupid, but overall the story was great. But there isn't an overall the story was great. Like he forgot about putting in something for literally anyone who doesn't care for his personal philosophy. So I feel like Alan Moore dropped the ball here, and I also feel like the illustrations and the words have like almost nothing to do with each other. Like, the pages could have been laid out completely differently, and it wouldn't have impacted my understanding of the material.
I think if you take the book for what it is, like, honestly, if you take this book for what it is, if this is the story he's trying to tell, and maybe he has no greater...
There is no story. The story he's trying to tell is that he's right, and this is how he sees the world.
But why do you feel like he's saying he's right? I mean, yes, it's his philosophy, but that's any writer. Like, that's any writer that's ever written anything.
But let's compare this to, like, Born Again, where we were able to talk about the book for an hour before we even brought up the fact that there was sort of a light dusting of Christian symbolism all over everything, because there were aspects of the story that did not rely on that. You could completely read the story without that part of it. And that was even a layer that was primarily added through really subtle artwork.
But that's Daredevil.
This doesn't have that.
That's Daredevil, where you can't take a lot of chances with Daredevil. And I know, like, as great as that story is, it's still Daredevil. It still like a status quo.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that, like, giving, like, Alan Moore carte blanche to do what he wants. Because if you do that with any writer, it's going to be a lot different from anything they've written, right? If you read anything about a writer that like, any comic book writer that doesn't, like, write a mainstream superhero book, a lot of the times you get, like, their philosophy and shit, and there's a lot more of them uncut.
Right, but you also usually get a beginning, middle, and end.
But if he's playing with structure, like you ever thought, like, maybe he's playing with structure?
Okay, let's compare this to, like, Sandman. Because they're both in exactly the same metaphysical genre. They even reference the same... I've never read
Sandman.
Okay.
I've never read.
So, all right.
Not yet.
Okay.
Anyway.
This is going to be my recommendation to you, is that Alan Moore wrote this right after someone else literally wrote the same thing, but managed to have plot and a story that was relevant to you if you didn't care for the writer's personal philosophy, and which could be read in smaller pieces or as a larger work. So other people, like, I could give you multiple other things which are like Promethea that are more readable and more palatable, and yet still give you a really strong idea of what the writer's perspective on art and imagination and creativity and collective unconscious and things like that. So, like, you said that you felt it was really imaginative, and I have to say, yes, this is a lot more creative than, like, a standard superhero book, but I would not give this any points for originality. Like, it feels like he's trying to copy other stuff that was popular.
And, like, even if that's true, even if what you're saying is true, I have no doubt that, like, Sandman is better than this. It's Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman is a lot more palatable. Like I actually agree with you that it can be obtuse and all that shit, but I like that.
Well, but see, here's the thing.
I like the weirdness. I like the meandering nature.
Here's the thing:
is
I don't think it's weird. I'm just like, what's your fucking point? Like, I understand it, and I'm just like, why are you doing this? Like, he's like, it's like Promethea is as though he's lecturing at you, and he forgot to include the introduction where he told you why any of it was important. And I don't know if that part is going to come at the end, or if it never comes at all.
It's Alan Moore, so it probably never comes.
Right.
But,
like,
I'm okay
I have no
with that.
confidence.
Like, I like these characters. I like the story he's telling. And yeah, it's weird. Look, there's some things in here I don't get. Like, I don't get the weeping gorilla shit. Like, I don't understand why. I don't even understand why that's a running joke. You know what I'm saying?
I think because it's a commentary on the type of media that Alan Moore is seeing people enjoying right now. Like, he's saying that people just want, like, cheap emotional release, that everything is just stupid soap opera drama, that it's like animal level humor. Like, I saw that clearly as him being condescending towards mainstream comics.
Well, he's always been condescending since mainstream comics.
Right, but that's fine. But the point is, like, that's a fairly, like, it's like, okay, great. So, like, he slips that in there, and it's like, okay, yeah, I got it. I don't care. Like, it doesn't make the book smarter or more interesting because he included that. It just, like, I'm like, why? I guess the point is that, this book feels very important. And
it does insist upon itself a whole lot.
Yes, and I'm missing the why.
But again, you can say that about any type of work. Like you don't like it, and that's fine. But the criticism of why, I don't think that's like fair, because you can say that about anything. Like,
no,
I
can't.
Why?
I can't. There are lots of, almost everything else that I read, I could tell you why it was written. Like, I could tell you what it's about and why it would be significant for someone to read. And the absolute worst reason on that list of reasons I might give you, the bare minimum would be that it was entertaining to read and an enjoyable experience. And this doesn't even have that.
I think it does. Like,
okay.
There's like a divide here, and we're not gonna come. We're not gonna be in the middle. I
think, yeah, no. Most of the time when we disagree, it's something like you say, this was in the book and it bothered me. And I go, yes, that was in the book. And it also bothered me, but overall I still liked it or something.
Yeah,
so normally we meet that this, I'm just like, fundamentally, like, the existence of this book, I think it's not even.
I will say this. I thought about you once we get to the issue where, like, the whole issue is just a set scene. I like, oh man, this is going to be the make or break point for not just Amanda, but for a lot of people.
But see, here's the thing, is that, like, okay, that bothered me, but maybe not for the reasons you think, because, like, I loved the vegetable sex issue of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, right? Like, I'm down for some, like, transcendental, hallucinogenic, weird comic book rainbow sex scenes. But this was just, like, the Swamp Thing one, it's characters that we're familiar with. It's characters that obviously have, like, their own will and their own agency. It's, you know, there's a relationship, there's been some build up, and then you get, like, weird sex, and it's like, okay, that's fine. It's a Swamp Thing plant trying to have sex with a lady who's like a magic lady or something, fine. But this was very, like, trying to make something divine out of what was really kind of a transactional premise. Like, she was there for magic books.
And he wanted sex, and it was a transaction, and it went off smoothly. And she just happened to enjoy herself. Look, maybe this is the problem, right? Because, like, you know, me and you always talk, right? And like we talk off, and I always tell you that, like, I'm not that enlightened, and I'm okay with that, right? I try. You
need to give yourself more credit, because, like, just because I can literally say, okay, Alan Moore, you're stealing these ideas from Walt Whitman. I read them in my Philosophy 101 class. That doesn't mean that you're not smart and that you don't understand the world.
No. It just like, no. Let me finish. I know what you're saying.
All right.
Let me finish. So, the set scene, right? Well, this is weird, right? But as a man, right? Just as a pure man who sometimes look at stuff from a man's point of view, right? Mm-hmm. The female body, and this is going to get really weird, like the female body as some type of religious experience, I completely understand. Like, I get that. I get why that might be weird or super uncomfortable for a woman. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not asking any woman to like it, but, like, this whole book is kind of like the fetishization of how great women are. Even if it's in a weird way, even if it's, like, in a way that might not be as, like, refined, but, like, as a man that sees women in those type of lights, as a religious experience, as in, like I've always said that, like, you know, God is in the female form, which again was a weird thing to say. So I get that shit. And I get why you don't like it. Now, I will say that I get why, like, it would be weird for you. But just as a dude that read this book, that sees, because, like, you know, as you know, I like strong women. So, like, as a man that just kind of sees this as, like, the embodiment of the perfect woman, the fetishization a bit of the perfect woman, I get that shit. And I like it.
Okay, so, honestly, that really kind of clears up a lot of maybe, like, what I didn't like about this book, which is that it's a dude writing about why women are so great.
Which I understand. Like, you see.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't get that. That just kind of sounds weird to me. And I'm like, at least that's well intentioned.
But no, I get. But you know what? I think we finally, like, met, like, our middle point of just, like, I get why you don't like it. Now you understand why maybe I do. Is because I feel him. Like, I feel him on that. And again, you're right. It's not the most, you know, it's not the most enlightened point of view or how you should do it. But hell, I listen to rap music. So, like, shit, it's more refined than some of the shit I usually listen to.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely got to that point and I was like, oh, of course, it's going to be a wrinkly old author insert character.
Hey, look, you know what? No, I would not let you do that, because I'm going to tell you something. As much as we talk about body issues and like with women and how women should be drawn and shit, I've read a lot of comic books, like a lot in my day, where there's been, like, set scenes, right? And I'm going to tell you something. Now, mind you, I'm not old and wrinkly, right? But it was awesome to see, like, some unattractive man have sex with this beautiful woman. Because no matter what you say about the portrayal of women in comic books, which are bad sometimes, they never, ever fuck an old, wrinkly guy. And
okay,
enjoy
I will
it.
give you that. I will give you that.
And enjoy it.
I will give you...
Look,
Yes.
it's usually Batman and Catman fucking on the roof somewhere, and they both got like 8 packs. So
their biceps have biceps.
Yeah, exactly. So Ashley, and again, we don't think about that because like women catch it so bad in comments, but like dudes are pretty like like peak human, like super self-realized them damn selves. You know what I'm saying? It just it's just so much worse with women. But so like I appreciate that, like this old man, because you thought it was gonna be this disgusting, gross thing, because that's what I was dreading. You know what I'm saying? I was super dreading, like oh god, this is going to be terrible, and it was kind of beautiful. It's weird. But it was beautiful, and she enjoyed herself. So like I kind of dig it that it didn't go the way you like thought, and also, the fact that she basically prostituted herself is kind of weird. But like, I think it's okay because there's no power involved, really. Because like technically, she could murder him. She don't need his magic. She could technically murder him. And he just asked, and he just simply asked, and she just had to decide yes or no. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of like, for sex work, I think that's kind of how it is. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and it also relates to some of what she was learning about how the powers of Promethea are supposed to work, which is the worldly pleasures of the pentacle or something are supposed to,
Look,
right?
I'm defending this book, okay? But don't get me wrong. There are things about this book that are weird and that I find hilarious. Like
her name is Sophie Bangs. Like, is she a fucking porn star? I'm sorry, I just can't handle the name and the fact that her last name is like only mentioned on the dust jacket of the book.
Really, I didn't even know. See, I have the book. So look, you know what? I didn't think that name was weird until I wrote it out for this show. Like it never occurred to me until I wrote it out. You know what I'm saying? Like his story is about Sophie Bangs.
Yeah, it could have easily been Sophie Brown. I don't know why it had to be Sophie Bangs.
Hey, look again. That might be like some porn quality he throwing in there, but I have no problem with that. I just feel like
was a Kickstarter backer.
Was a Kickstarter backer, right? I have no problem with that.
Back in the year 2000, someone named Sophie Bangs donated $15 to that.
He was like, well, you know what? That name is just smutty enough. But my argument, right? You don't take this stuff away. What you do is you just give women like a chance to write like their version of this. So it would be like, I don't know, John Longcox or something. I don't know. Just it's written by a woman, and I'll be okay with that too.
Richard Wienerman. Oh, no, wait, sorry, I forgot. We already have the perfect, it would be Anthony Weiner, right?
Anthony Weiner, yes. Carlos Danger himself. But yeah, so like I think that's what it is, right? I think this might be a like this just like not necessarily a man book, because again, like I think you give this to most dudes, they'd be like, what the fuck is this hippie bullshit? But like I'm down for the for the magic of the magic of females. I'm down for that shit. And they had glowing body parts too. Like that was ridiculous. I love it, but it was ridiculous that like their body parts were glowing. I'm like, fucking really? Like
okay, so I think okay, so here's where I think I will come down on this book. There is very, very little in this book for me, which is disappointing because I feel like with the amount of talent on it, they should have been able to at least slip in like one subplot that I cared about. But I don't think you're crazy for finding value in it. I will walk back my assessment of Jamil from insane lunatic to enlightened comic book buddy. We'll be friends again.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. That means so much to me.
But also friends. I have more things that you can read, which are similar
Oh,
but better.
no. Look. I never said that. Look, that's the thing, right? I never said like this, like the best shit I ever read. Like for like this, but like for like late era Alan Moore, I like this a lot more than like I like some of his other shit that he's written. Like I read like The Lost Girls. That's not really that great and kind of makes me kind of uncomfortable and icky. Like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is like real fucking staunchy. You know what I'm saying? I almost prefer the shitty movie to like the comic book. I know the comic book is better, but just so like for late era Alan Moore, I like this a lot. Like just for his input for maybe like the last 20, 25 years. This is by far the best thing I've read from him in the last 20, 25 years. But again, I'm under no illusion that this is like, you know what I'm saying, like a masterpiece.
Okay.
But with that being said, and we talked about it a little bit, this fucking art elevates elevates a lot of this story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
these are some pretty fucking pictures, right? And look, we talked about this. We're just shallow because if you take out the words,
oh my gosh,
I would still enjoy this.
You know what? Okay, that is maybe what I will do is I will go back and I will reread this with the volume off. So I just won't look at any of the text and I'll just go through it. It's like when you like when you're watching a movie and you turn the volume off because you don't want to hear the inane dialogue.
That might work. Like this art, and I'm gonna tell you, because I read this on Comixology, right? And I read with the guided view. This is the first time I ever seen because the guided view does something really cool when it comes to splash pages a lot of the time, where like it'll focus on the words first in the book, then like it'll open up to like the whole page, so it gives it like this really like cinematic thing where like it'll make you like the guided view on Comixology will make you focus on the words first, then brings the picture back, right? And like a comic book usually has one of those, right? Like every 2 to 3 pages, it does this shit because the layout is so like whoever programmed this for Comixology knew exactly what the hell they was doing, because like every 2 to 3 pages it'll just open up to the splash page, since this book is like half splash pages, or like 1/3 splash, 2/3 splash pages. So like you'll get this cool thing where it'll just open up and you just see like this master of his craft at work, and how he put together these panels and words and every fucking thing. It's kind of damn awesome.
Okay, so now this leads me to a really interesting point, which is, okay, well, first of all, I managed to get physical copies of these. I will mail them to you because I don't need them to stay in my house. So
I'm surprised.
If you like the book, I'll just ship them down to Georgia. But second is that there were several of these splash pages where the order of the lettering, if you took it in all at once, could have been a little bit ambiguous. Particularly, there were some scenes where Sophie was Promethea in the real world, fighting the demons in the hospital, and the other Prometheas were like watching her from dreamland, we'll say. And there was some very interesting time stuff going on there where it's like things aren't necessarily happening in order in the 2 different places.
Nope.
And so when you have the page, when you're holding it physically, you can open the page and you can kind of see that it's all happening at the same time, and you can try to read it. Like you can start here and go, no, I think it goes over there. And you can kind of figure out what's going on with the timing like that. And there were a lot of pages like that where it was like, oh, I could kind of read this in almost any order.
Well,
And I'm now wondering, like, if Comixology, because it's telling you which one comes next, kind of takes away some of that, like, interesting, like I thought that was an interesting layer.
well, look, I know you hate this book with a hot burning passion of 1,000 suns, right?
Uh-huh.
But you only get this book, you only get this beautiful art because it's written by Alan Moore. Which, what I'm saying is, he's so experimental, and he allowed J.H. Williams III, because like Alan Moore is really collaborative with his artists in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well,
So like all that hippy dippy bullshit that you hate, and like
well,
like
wait, have you read other stuff with J.H. Williams on art?
I think I have. I can't remember.
Like, okay, because J.H. Williams art is always like this.
Well, no, J.H. Williams' art is always great. Like J.H. Williams' art
But
is all.
like even his Batwoman was weird like this.
I read his Batwoman. I don't remember it being this. No. He's always experimental, but I feel like I read his Batwoman. Now that I'm thinking about it, I did read his. I love his Batwoman, but like even though that is like kind of strange, not strange, unique. Let's say unique, right? Like I feel like this takes it to a whole nother weird level. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think working with Alan Moore and all that weird hippy dippy shit he talks about, you know what I'm saying? All this dreamland shit, I think really pushes this art to like a whole nother level. And I think you only get that because Alan Moore and his philosophy on magic, I guess. And like I said, the only time I feel like it gets away from me is in that last issue. Like that last issue was like a tough read. It really was for me. Like, you know, I work overnight, and like it was putting me to sleep because I just didn't care about the tarot cards, no matter how pretty the art looked.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're right. His work is usually like, you know.
Yeah. I will say, okay, so because I was going to try to make an argument that no, like a lot of this could have been on the artist, especially since I felt like a lot of it was just background art for the explanation. But to go back to like literally the vegetable sex from Swamp Thing, that issue specifically looks so much like the sex scene in Promethea that, yeah, it has to be like Alan Moore had to have said like, hey, I worked with this artist on how I wanted this to look. Like, this is how I want sex to look in my books. I don't know. But there is, I do see precedent for Alan Moore pushing artists experimentally. Like, as you read Saga of the Swamp Thing, you can see it go from what looks like an 80s comic to what looks like a contemporary comic. And it's kind of fun to watch that evolution.
Well, you know, and it's the same thing with Watchmen, right? Watchmen does a lot of interesting stuff with his with his page layout and panels, like, and that's definitely Alan Moore working super closely with the artist. So, like, yes, maybe you're right. Maybe like the actual plot isn't there. So you say.
No, you look. You said I'm right, and I'm going to like let that wash over me because.
You know what? This is just get back from like I run away this conversation. Well, I kind of brought you to my side just a little bit.
Yeah.
But no. But yeah, I don't think you get this beautiful art unless Alan Moore is taking mushrooms and talking that crazy shit. Cause like clearly he takes mushrooms, right? Like we all in agreement on that.
He definitely does something.
So like, do you like any of the characters in this book at all?
I didn't really feel like I knew anything about them because, like, what do we even know about the main character? She's a college student. She's sort of not really into partying. She kind of likes studying and books. And then she gets to be Promethea, but it's a version of Promethea that, like, isn't like fully formed. And so she just goes back and forth between like a more and less, I guess, empowered version of herself.
Well, now to be fair, they do say like this, like this every Promethea when they first get their powers, like you know what I'm saying. She like you know she hasn't basically what was happening.
Well, right, and I understand that that's explained in the story, that she's still coming into her power and figuring out how her personality will mesh with Sophie's. But like, what that means is we still don't really know who she is. She's still kind of like an empty vessel to be filled with people speaking at her.
Sure, I think the issue with this is not even an issue, right? Like, I've been reading underdeveloped male characters all my life, so it doesn't bother me. So like this, like it just doesn't like it's enough there for me. But I get it. But honestly, to be fair, Sophie's probably the least interesting character in this book.
Yes.
She's almost a cipher. I think her friend is more interesting. Actually,
even her mom is more interesting.
Oh yeah, her horrible mom. Oh yeah, I love that lady. I love that her friend like talks shit to her, but also loves her. Like your mom is like, what do you say? It's like an unrepentant whore, and I kind of love her for it. I kind of like that. But actually, my favorite character is the Promethea that directly precedes her. What's her name? The
Barbara.
Barbara. I love Barbara. Like Barbara's
and Barbara was her husband who turned her into Promethea, right?
Look, just for Freudian sakes, right? It's always a man turning a woman into Promethea. Like almost every story is a man's like turning a woman into Promethea. But yes, it was her husband.
Okay.
But I do like the fact that like she was Promethea, but she's like a less sexy version of Promethea. I thought that was really fucking cool. I kind of like they had her in her underwear. Mm-hmm. Not in a sexual way, but just usually when there's a woman in her underwear, they usually make her look sexy. I like her being in her underwear in the hospital is just a function of her being in a hospital where they strip you butt naked and your body doesn't necessarily have to look like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say? Does that make any sense when I'm
Yes, no, you're right, and I'm perhaps not giving the book enough credit for being willing to show even different kinds of Promethea. Like, I mean, actually, there was a story element about, and actually, this is maybe like one of the few elements I could relate to. Is Sophie is kind of like a small woman who's like flat chested, and then she gets to be Promethea, and she's like this tall, sexy Amazon with like giant comic book boobs, and like that's even, and so what I should be doing is, instead of sitting here and going like, okay, yeah, I guess that's kind of funny, what I should be going is, wow, they had the courage to even draw a flat-chested woman in a comic book to begin with so that they could make this joke. So I should be thankful for the small blessing of a flat-chested main character who's given the opportunity to have her bosoms be whatever size she wants through the power of imagination.
Oh, man, if only we could do that in real life. Also, I love the stuff Alan Moore tried to make a thing that would never be a thing. What does everybody call her? A science heroine? What the fuck is a science heroine? Like, what in the blue hell? Like, okay, that was a weird, like, the first time I heard it, like, all right, that's a weird turn of phrase. And they just kept going back to it. Like, it's not gonna be a thing. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, what does that mean?
So I think he was trying to play off this idea of, like, the cycling of cultures and saying that, like, their current society was in a period of, like, excessive rationality, and that, so, like, essentially these science heroes are, like, Batman-type superheroes who all have, like, gadgets and technology to accomplish their extraordinary feats.
Right.
And so, like, I think that is supposed to be part of, like, we're in the cycle of reason and the cycle of rationality, and Promethea is supposed to be the one who brings magic and creativity and maybe like irrationality back to the human spirit so that we can like transcend the physical plane or whatever.
I mean,
so she's supposed to be like a mystical counterpoint to like science.
Like I got that. Like I did.
Yeah.
Like I got that. But
also, you're right. Like, what the hell is a science hero?
A science hero and a science hero.
It's the least plausible part of the entire story. A beautiful demigoddess has sex with a wrinkly old man. Fine. Science hero, not happening.
Like, what the hell? And the fact that it's gendered, that like she's like, they literally say science heroine. I'm like, isn't that what they call her? I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't get it. Like, and like that version and this version of like superheroes are super fucking lame in my opinion. The five swell guys, like, I just like, is this some British shit that I'm just not like with the Weeping Gorilla, right? Is this just some British shit, like some British humor that I'm just not getting, that is just going way over my head? Like, is this how like British people see Americans? I don't know. But the five swell guys are fucking lame. Then like some of the technology they use, what was the shit they used? The gel jacket? Like who the fuck would use that?
Oh yeah, like the computer gel technology that was supposed to be in everything.
That shit looked like a bad idea.
None of the science heroes looked at that ahead of time and said, "No, this is weird."
Like the one in the wheelchair, like this shit, this sloppy shit just takes me up the steps. It's just like, who the fuck wants to live in a world where there's just like jail
sentient goo everywhere?
Like, who thought? So
I think it's just supposed to show how crazy they all are.
I guess so.
Science has gone too far. They never, they never stopped to wonder if they should before they could.
Yep. The quote,
we need the Jeff Goldblum gif.
Yeah, yeah. And apparently at the new, it's also weird that it's set like in 1999, but it's like a futuristic 1999. Why just not set it like 2099? Like, would that be much of a difference? Like, you know what I'm saying? Would it be much, like, everything is so futuristic, just set it in 2099 instead of making it like an alternate world of 1999.
That is interesting.
Also, you could tell that he's an old white man. And like,
oh wait, please tell me how you figured out that he was a crazy old white man.
Because he really loved death metal, and I'm gonna tell you now, nobody fucking listens to death metal like that. But there's like a strong current of like heavy metal and death metal in this book, and I can tell you from experience, from being in 1999, from being around white people, nobody listens to that shit like that. Like there's a small ass subgenre in today's world. Like, you know what I'm saying? They have been listening to like hip hop. Straight up, like I don't know else how to say it, but that's what they've been listening to, like hip hop and like Fall Out Boy or something. I know this is before Fall Out Boy, but ain't no in the hell.
I love how I made a Fall Out Boy joke like half an hour ago, and now that's the first band that's going to come to mind when you need like an embarrassing name.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying? It's just like this whole like metal thing is just like they don't really ring true to modern day society. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they sound like a man that might have missed.
Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe there was a heavy metal renaissance in this alternate world. There was a heavy metal renaissance in like the 80s, and that's why and then by the 90s it already looks all futuristic and weird and stuff. We're missing out. Everyone missed the heavy metal train, and that's why society is messed up today.
Cause like in my mind, cause like I know now, like we know now that like, you know, the reports came out that rap music is the most listened to music in America, right? So with that knowledge, it was weird to see like death metal and heavy metal have like this giant presence in like somewhat modern day like America in 1999. I know that's about 20 years ago, but even then, like, it's weird to see like death metal and heavy metal have that big of a presence. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't see Sophie Baines listening to death metal. Like that's the thing. Maybe her friend a little bit, right? But apparently, just everybody in this world listens to death metal and heavy metal, like all the young kids, and I just don't see that happening for real. To me, that was the most unbelievable part.
See, I don't understand what's happened. You're now starting to give me more reasons to dislike the book. You changed your strategy, and I'm confused now. If you give me enough reasons to hate it, I'm gonna like flip around and start liking it again, and I'm gonna start arguing with you that it's good.
No, look, I knew
it's a brilliant strategy.
No, look, going in, right, I knew this was going to be like an argument, and I knew it's probably going to be you mostly yelling at me, which is fine. That's okay.
I don't think I'm yelling at you.
No, you're not yelling. No, I'm exaggerating a bit, but like this is probably the most you ever talked on the podcast. Your disgusting disdain really brought out of you today, Amanda. No, seriously though, like I knew this was going to be a fight. I knew this was going to be like a bit debate, and like you made some really good points. But like, just because I like this book, don't mean I don't have problems with it, right? Like Daredevil, like we read Daredevil last week. I think that book is damn near perfect. But even I complained of the fact that they like retold his origin like. See, the thing is, I can like again, it's that thing, right? You can like something and not think it's perfect. I don't think it's perfect by a long shot. I don't think I said that. If I did, I'm pretty sure I edited it out in post. But but I don't think I did say it was perfect. But I did like it. But there are things about this that are weird. That are like late era Alan Moore type shit, and it does read like a 50-year-old man view on youth culture. But actually, to be fair, that's most comic books. But I think this takes it to another level. Like that's actually most comic books.
Yeah.
Fucking Riri Williams, get the fuck out of here. That's not a real name. But well, okay. I think we reached the end of this episode. Shit, Amanda, is it my turn?
Yes, I'm sorry to say it is your turn.
Shit.
This was recommended, if you remember, this was recommended by the owner of my local comic book store.
So are you going to go in and just like beat the shit out of him with these books you bought? Just take the books and just like, pummel him to death with them?
Well, you see, here's the thing. Based on what I read, this was a really safe recommendation. I do not think he will be surprised if I go back and say that I hated parts of this book intensely and that I don't want to read any more of it. But I don't think it was a bad recommendation based on, because I mean, like, he sees my pull list, he knows what I read. This is right up my alley, or at least it should be, and that's maybe why I'm even angrier, is that this is so close to being a book that I would love. But yes, this was recommended, so I recommended this, or I chose this based on his recommendation.
That's what
so that
you
means
get.
It's your turn. Yeah, that's what I get for listening to strangers on the internet, in real life, in person, that I know.
And trust. Okay. Since I didn't think of anything and I'm pulling this out of my ass, we're actually going to read something that's relatively new.
Woo!
I know, and actually relatively mainstream. Which after this book, we probably
give me something that has a plot.
And there's just not a bunch of mumbo jumbo about how awesome females are. So we are reading. Hold on. Let me get all the particulars right. I don't want to like be an asshole. Not one joke, Amanda. Not one joke, please. So Amanda, for our next show, we will be reading Batman: White Knight. Written and drawn by Sean Murphy. So that's it for this episode of the Comic Book Club. I think the show survived us like actually fully disagreeing.
I think we're still friends, yeah.
I think we are. I think you're completely wrong, but it's okay. I still love you. But I am Jamil Payne.
I'm still Amanda Comey.
And
I'm not Promethea yet.
Not yet, but let me find a piece of paper so I can write. You know what? That is kind of weird. Oh snap! It's this chick I want to jerk off to. Let me write about how awesome she is. And look, I write her, and then she wants to have sex with me. It's funny how that works.
Wow, that doesn't sound like comic book writer masturbation fodder at all.
Oh, it definitely is. I'm just here for that shit. That's all. Okay, guys, we're out of here. See you in a couple weeks. Bye.